All right, so we just got out of straight out of Compton. I'm Huffman, also known as Mike, also known as I don't know what. I'm gonna figure some other shit out. With me is
Sierra Madre.
oh yeah. Introduce yourself properly.
I am a student of life and especially of film. And today we're going to talk about this movie that we literally just saw, almost fell asleep in.
It was fucking boring. It was boring as shit. It was the whole thing had like no flow whatsoever.
No, it had a flow.
Really?
The flow was, here's the year, here's what happened. Here's the next year, and here's what happened. Things just happened to these people with no apparent, effect or cause. They just kind of came out of nowhere. And just because that's probably what they said had to happen, and so that's what happened. There wasn't really any kind of real drive or purpose to any of the characters or any real. I mean, the only person who really had like a kind of characterization was that one guy whose name escapes me, who kind of looked like, I think he looked like Ron from a different world, and he's like the funniest dude in this movie, and I don't even know who the hell he is.
Wait, which guy?
The
is
guy
that?
who was like trying to hit on all the women.
What?
The little guy.
Oh man, yeah. Well, because they didn't introduce him.
They did introduce. Wait,
Did they introduce
I
him?
think so.
I forgot. I
Okay, so
forgot
the
his
way that you
fucking
know
name.
that people are supposedly important in this movie, at least in the beginning, is that they give them this little title card
They give him
thing
title cards. They give
that
like
gives
weird.
their proper name and their, rapper name.
It's so corny. It was like a fucking.
Except for when they get into the future. I guess anybody who wasn't in NWA didn't warrant a card. Am I correct on that?
I don't know what warranted a card.
Yeah, I don't know what
because
was
a few of the group members seem to
what the
get
rules
cards.
were.
Did they all get cards? I didn't see all of them get cards.
I think everybody who was in NWA got a card.
But sometimes a party would get a card.
No.
We,
Times and places get times
but
and
only
places.
sometimes.
Okay, here. Okay, look.
Not all the times. Not all the places.
Most of the important, supposedly, I guess, important times and places got title cards, as did the people who were important to this movie, NWA. I guess because they were also important places and times.
It was corny as shit.
I wish that if they would introduce something, they would follow through with it, or maybe follow through with less things that they introduced. Because, for example, they introduce Dr. Dre's brother, with Dre telling this kid several friggin' times to stay out of trouble, and you just know that kid's gonna die.
Stay out of trouble. I'm leaving you behind.
Yeah, stay out of trouble, please. Don't stop getting in fights and stuff. And the kid's like, yeah, all right, just take me out to Miami whenever you're ready. Yeah, okay. So you know something's gonna happen with that kid. Does that grief affect him later? Does it play any real role in his character? I'm sure it does for Dr. Dre as a human being.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that he can recognize. Remember, this movie is made by Dr. Dre.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Dre and Ice Cube got together and decided, hey, we're gonna make a movie about our younger days because, and I mean, it's not the worst idea ever. The reason that we saw it is because I'd love to see NWA on screen. Like these stories. You don't have like a whole bunch of biopics done about like hip hop at all, ever.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to think. When's the last time that anybody did a biopic about a hip?
Nobody does.
And the thing is, too, is that they're in such a crucial point, not crucial, but like a very significant point in history.
Yeah.
They are like the godfathers of rap.
Right.
You can say whoever, what was it? I don't know. The people who did Chic's song or whatever, and they're the ones who started rap or whatever. You could do the whole history of rap, but this point and the fact that they, Dre got friggin' Snoop and he got, friggin' Tupac. They are the godfathers of rap,
Yeah.
because LL Cool J lovely as he is,
Mm-hmm.
these guys are pretty significant. Although it is kind of weird that they didn't mention Run DMC at all.
No,
Like Run
but it wasn't
Run
about
DMC
him.
didn't have any effect on their lives apparently at all.
That's not really my problem. Like who they mentioned or who they didn't mention.
No. I'm
My
not.
problem is how shitty the movie is. And what I was gonna bring it all back to before is that again, Dr. Dre and Ice Cube made this movie. This is how they see their chronology. I have to assume, right? Like we should, like this is the most likely scenario. Like so, whatever effect his brother had on him, to him it seems like my brother died, and that really sucked. So that's what he took away from it because that's what the movie is presenting to us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the whole movie kind of flows. Like it's basically these two guys, and they're kind of like laying out what they thought they did. You know, some of the things that they did, you know, clearly happened and clearly had an impact, and there's something about those things that they did that goes beyond them as a group, right? Surely, like I don't actually know. I don't know a whole lot of the history of it, but yeah, like I know that the riot in Detroit happened when they did that shit, right? When they played "Fuck the Police" in Detroit, you know, like it resonated beyond the group, right?
Yes.
But then there's like stuff that we're just having a party right now. This is important, or like I don't know, just like a whole bunch of scenes played out. Weird.
Here's my thing with the fact that nothing seemed to matter. Nothing seemed to matter at all. And when I say matter, I don't mean just that. Obviously, these are real people, and the difficulty is that they're not senile. You know, they're still alive. They obviously, as you say, had some sort of role in the production of this movie. So you don't get to see any kind of nuance. And also, probably the writers of this movie weren't free to create, much nuance.
It's probably true. No, I imagine. Yeah, I imagine it was pretty tight.
With a
It
lot of
looked like it
these,
was.
with a lot of these sorts of movies, like
Lots
I'm
of
trying
these
to
scenes
think.
felt constipated to me for sure.
Constipated?
I thought they were just kind of like, shut up. There should be something said here. They can't get it out. They can't say the thing that they're trying to say out of those scenes.
I thought sometimes they were saying too much.
No, they were saying too.
They seemed to flow very well.
No, they didn't. But they were saying like the what and the where. Like, yeah, I was over there and doing this thing. And like, obviously, we just saw it in the scene. Where he fucking Paul Giamatti read that line twice at the table. So they're breaking. Okay, so just because we are like recording it, right? So there's a scene towards the end where Eazy-E's confronting Paul Giamatti's character. What's his name?
I can't remember. It's weird too because they say it a lot.
Joe Heller or John Heller or some shit.
Heller or something.
Yeah, some shit like that. He's going up to literally break up with his manager, right? This dude has been like set up as this guy who basically took NWA out of their basement and into like the world of actual music world. Like he was the guy that made their releases possible, right? So Easy finds out through some chick that was never introduced. This bitch just kind of came out of nowhere, right?
She was introduced, like in the sense that she appeared before the scene in which she told him.
Right. Yeah. So she's just kind of there out of nowhere. But
we
all
don't
of a
know
sudden,
why she's significant.
Yeah, but we don't know who she is or why she's there. But she offers to look at his books. We don't know why she's able to do that. Let's assume she's some kind of CPA that he hooked up with. All right. She looked at his books and like in a quick scene, it's like, oh, this dude has been like fucking you your entire life. So Eazy-E goes in to confront does Joe Heller do Paul Giamatti's character at his house. All right. There's this weird fucking dramatic scene where Paul Giamatti is trying to it's that like the cliche scene, right? Like the one where it's just like, you don't know what's good for me. You've been fucking me all my life.
Yeah.
And the guy's
and
like,
then,
no,
baby, please don't go.
I made all of this possible. Yeah, please don't go.
Baby, please don't go. Which is basically what he does.
Yeah, it's basically what he does.
He's basically crying.
He's like, this all has been possible because of me. You need me or whatever. That scene.
Yeah.
And they do this scene, and he reads the line. I even remember that. It's something like, "Have I covered my ass? I've definitely covered my ass, but I've always made sure to take care of you." He said that line twice.
Okay.
One right after the other.
To be fair.
Whose decision was that?
To be fair.
Why was that in there?
I'm fairly certain Paul Giamatti did not read that line twice. The editor put that line in twice. Because the way that it plays, it sounds exactly the same the first time he said
Right,
it.
right. No. Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I'm not talking about like whether, of course, Parjiamati probably read that line
The
multiple
the
times.
character,
They
yes,
used two
the
takes. The
characters,
character says that
the
line
character
twice.
says the line
Why
twice.
do we have in a movie? I mean, I understand like that's how people talk, but in the entire movie, we have like this whole thing where none of the conversations feel like they're real. They're
No,
all they're all reading the line.
and
They're
filled with
given,
cliches.
yeah,
And the only person who manages to make that stuff sound like a person said it is Paul Giamatti.
yeah.
God bless him,
No, Paul
because
Giamatti. I mean,
he's the only
easily.
one who can. Because this line, I mean, there were so many lines in that movie that were like, did you literally just pull this out of the textbook on things that people say?
I don't
That
know.
was
I don't know
published
who
like,
wrote this script. It sounded like Easy E wrote that script, but it was probably Dre.
why would you? What Easy E?
Because okay, so Easy
Easy
E
E is
Easy E's the
dearly
guy,
departed.
dearly departed. Easy E is basically given the role in the film of
Oh
the
my
guy that was
goodness,
like basically
yes.
bankrolling them in the beginning. They gave him a bunch of lyrics to sing, and he was apparently able to like instinctually pick it up after the third time Dre told him that he could do it. It was very awesome. But in the end, the way that I understood it in the movie is that Easy E's role past the very beginning, like where he bankrolled him in the beginning, and him just being his voice basically, is the only thing he's ever contributed. He didn't really write or produce or even okay anything in the
He
group.
contributed his persona.
He contributed. Yeah, right, exactly.
And,
So who he was,
and the money at first.
right, and the
Which I
money.
can understand them being, thankful for that, because otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do anything. But character wise,
He
and
was
I
super
can
awkward.
understand why they would do this, because the man is dead. But they gave him entirely too much to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think of as, oh, Dreamgirls. Okay. So like I just wish I found myself sitting there bored to tears at some point, like, and it wasn't even the middle of the movie. It was maybe uh a quarter of the way
It
through.
was about the
And
time that they wrote Ice Cube out of it, like entirely, where
maybe,
Ice Cube was just like, at
but
first he was like a dude of the NWA, then he left, and then they kind of kept coming back to him once in a while to go like, oh, but here's Ice Cube doing his own shit. All right, back to what we were
yeah,
doing.
back to the proper NWA proper.
Yeah.
But here's my thing. I found myself thinking, God, I wish that this was Dreamgirls with rap. I just wish
Yeah.
that it was something that was that was tight, that moved, and then maybe did something fun, like, use the songs as, a situational type of thing,
That's what I thought.
instead of just
It was about.
step by step. Oh, here's the year, and this is the song that came out that year.
They were about to do that. It felt like they were about to do that.
And then it just flatlines.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that I'm thinking with Dreamgirls, they had a few different storylines going at once. Each of the girls had their own little thing. Now, of course, you've got the two big things. You probably don't. I don't know if you remember Dreamgirls, but they had the two big
I have no
things
idea.
with the two main characters, the Diana Ross, person that was played by Beyonce, and then the other character that was played by Jennifer Hudson. And they had their big two storylines fighting it out, basically. In this movie, they should have chosen, one person to basically kind of follow, and then the conflict between maybe the two main people.
Yeah. No,
or
it's,
maybe
it's
they're
limp. It's,
maybe they're coming together, and for some reason it just doesn't feel inspired. You don't really get a good sense of how good Dre is at making music, like how good they kind of hint at it, but they don't really
they don't care.
They're not able to portray the
that.
synergy that came together with how good his music was and how good Ice Cube's lyrics were. They don't really portray them as these two great artists or anything like that.
Actually, one thing they did effectively, I thought, was like depict how good of a lyricist Ice Cube was. Like they had him write lyrics for them at the beginning, and then they somehow, and clearly from the rest of this movie, this was obviously by accident. But when they had like the diss track going against Ice Cube, and Ice Cube responded with his own diss track, and how like his was just insane, like and like amazingly good, and like they showed that like the fact that he was like a more talented lyricist than all of them, came out in that scene, and it like kind of tied together. Like, oh, this guy is like super fucking epic. The movie could have probably ended after that because
Yeah,
after
pretty
that
much
there was no
NWA
conflict.
was dead.
There was no.
The
There was
Straight
like
Out of Compton
yeah.
was dead.
It was so. It was just like it was dickless. It was kind of like a for all like macho shit that like their whole persona was like
Oh
NWA's
my
persona.
god. Another thing
The
too.
movie didn't have those same balls at all because the one conflict that they had was I'm talking about like between the main characters was yeah, Ice Cube doesn't really like Joe Heller or whatever. And that was it. And then after that, like and it wasn't really like they didn't really explore that conflict whatsoever or like the
No.
fact that clearly they had like maybe artistic differences too. There must have been like a more complex way that the whole relationship played
Yes.
out than
That
Ice Cube going
that's
like
what I mean.
I don't like this contract.
I mean complexity. Okay, so that part was the only good part in that movie to me is when he basically slays them with his friggin'
Yeah, no, it was
response to
absolutely
their lame ass dig at him leaving their
like I said,
leaving
it
NWA.
must have been by accident
But
or somebody else must have edited that part.
but for me,
Uh-huh.
they could have done something more with their coming together. I don't know. I'm trying to think exactly how you would do this, but if you're gonna say, and I mean, we all know, everybody knows that Dre is fantastic at doing beats. If you're gonna say something like that, and if you're gonna say that this guy is a perfect lyricist, you got to make it more beautiful than how this movie made it. The fact that these two guys came together.
Yeah. No, like I said, it was just like there was like that's what I meant when I said like there was no flow. Like there's no at no point is there like an idea that gets started in the scene that progresses naturally into
not at
anything
all.
else later.
There's no cause
It's
and
just-
effect at all.
It's just
in the story.
here's the point that Cube and Dre thought was important. They shot that entire point, and they're like, all right, and then nothing else happened. Let's move on to the next one.
And
I feel like they should have got somebody else to look at their life for them. I feel like there's no way.
you need somebody to come out and say, here's what makes your life cinematic.
Yeah.
Because you are going to make a movie out of it. For example, Tina Turner, I'm pretty sure when she wrote I think she wrote it I, Tina, that the book that What's Love Got to Do with It is based off of.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure
she
I'm pretty sure that she had a ghostwriter for that.
Oh.
So not only do you not, you have somebody who can take your story and then fashion it into something where, okay, here's the central conflict here in your life. Yes, you came from something that was really, really hard. You came from a very, rough place. And then here you are met with your challenges. Now, the great story that this movie could have told is the way in which NWA empowered people to confront the fact that there are great abuses in how the police as an institution is run. That could have been a great story that they could have come to. They could have focused on that.
Yeah.
They could have focused, like anything. But instead we're kind of, met with these two big bads, Joe Heller or whatever his name is, and Suge Knight, which as soon as he appeared on the screen, I was like, there's your villain right there. There's your villain right there. It wasn't obvious
for me. I had no idea.
Well, because I knew as soon as he came up that was Suge Knight, and he's done some crazy.
Yeah, see,
shit.
I don't even know who the fuck that is.
And that's another problem.
I don't like if I don't.
This movie relies too much on you knowing what these people have already done.
I'm absolutely. I'm totally like an ignorant white dude, right? I don't know what the fuck happened back in.
Well, I just like
80s.
my history, so.
But I mean, like, I don't know the history of NWA. Like,
Yeah.
outside
I barely
of like,
know the history of NWA.
I've listened to an album. I've listened to some like Ice Cube stuff later, like after he left them. Like, I obviously I listened to The Chronic. I listened to 2001. So like, I know that. But like NWA, thank God for those title cards. In 1988 was like that's when they framed their first like breakout or whatever. Like I was just born,
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck happened there. So like a whole lot of this movie relies on the fact that I know these characters and I know these people who they're supposedly trying to like interact with, and like I already know what happened. Like basically the movie is like, oh well, like how you already have an opinion of these events. Here, let us like kind of show them
Yes.
cinematically.
All they do.
It kind of did show the actual sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but their cinematography I thought was gorgeous most of the time, but nothing ever happens with it.
Yeah. I think that this was a terrible miscarriage of direction as well, because as nice as the frames looked, what they shot and how they shot it, it doesn't really. You're putting these people up on a big screen. You might as well make them look epic and make them look dynamic, and it doesn't really do that. When they introduced Suge Knight, the only reason why I got, kind of like, ooh, something's gonna happen with this guy, is because I knew who he was. Not because they introduced him in any kind of way where you're kind of feeling a sort of foreboding about it or anything. They don't really have any way of shooting it to make it look either romantic or make it look epic or any kind of. There's no kind of feeling to the way that this movie was directed at all. The thing that was beautiful to me, and the thing I got probably a little bit too excited about if they first started to go into it, was the oh no, why am I blanking? Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot this man's name.
Who?
The Rodney King beating.
Rodney King. Oh, okay. You forgot who Rodney King is?
No, I didn't. I didn't forget who he is. I know who he is. I blanked on his name for some reason.
No, good. We'll keep that in. That sounds funny.
That's not hilarious.
It's funny because of how horrible.
That's really not good.
Anyways, so yeah.
So the Rodney King beating, they introduce it. They show the footage, and and I'm feeling, oh my goodness, this big moment in history. This is a moment in history, and they kind of just wash over it. They show moments from the riots in Watts, and they show Eazy-E watching it on his television and the whole thing play out, with the trial and everything. But they don't really show how that really affects who they are as characters. Because let's not talk about the fact that this is actually happening with actual real people. How does that affect them as characters? How does that affect the story?
Yeah, we have no idea.
When and I keep bringing it back to Dreamgirls, because of course Dreamgirls had itself, the riot scene, and they had the characters feeling, not safe, but it actually played out in their story, in their lives. Tons of movies have these big, dramatic moment that is with a ton of other people, but it will affect the people in the story, and for some reason that just didn't come across here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't know, like they just kind of cut it together that way, but in the end, it kind of read. I mean, it's just my interpretation, but it kind of read like sort of like a "we told you so." Like we wrote "fuck the police." Should have fucked the police, guys, because here's this happening. They're all really sad about it, but then like you see Ice Cube Jr. riding down the street during like the montage, the riot montage.
Ice Cube Jr.
Yeah, this is the joke, because he's played by Ice Cube's son, who does a decent job, probably. I don't know. Anyways, he's riding down the street, and you're just kind of looking out like, damn, they should have listened. I guess I don't know. Like I don't know what the reading is, but like yeah, because other than that, there's nothing else to take out. Like yeah, just shit happens around us, and I guess like in the beginning where they tore. Actually, the beginning scene is great, where like they had like the tank roll into like that drug deal.
My favorite bit about that tank, basically this tank with like this ram on the front of it, and they ram the door down, and the ram hits the girl.
Oh yeah,
complete disregard for fucking life.
That was brutal.
Complete disregard for life. If you want to talk about something that would show the entire motivation for why these people would name themselves niggas with attitude and write a song, as angry, that opens with "fuck the police," that scene is the complete reason. Let's not even talk about the fact that they have like a black cop coming up, telling these,
that was dark, man.
Telling these dudes, but they got that scene in every freaking movie where they have these people,
but yeah, it's dark.
Where they have these, because you have to show how messed up the institution is. The fact that they don't, I don't know. They don't manage to elevate that or make that as a theme of how oppressed they are. I don't know.
No, I was gonna say that actually I was totally with this movie for the first half hour, or maybe it was an hour. This movie's long as shit.
This movie was
Um,
entirely too long.
the whatever the beginning part, like I'm telling you, like right up to the Detroit scene, it was kind of clunky. It wasn't always landing, but I was totally with that movie. I thought that the way that it set up their situation, like Ice Cube's going to school, doesn't seem to have anything going on. Eazy-E's trying to get out of his like drug dealing, like whatever lifestyle. Dr. Dre, not even Dr. Dre yet. He has to move out of his mom's house because his mom has a different like perception of the way he should be carrying shit out. He doesn't have anything else to do, and he has a kid.
Well, he's not
Right?
going to school and he doesn't have
Yeah,
a job.
right. He doesn't have anything going on except for these records. Like,
And she had him when she was,
Yeah.
probably too young. He has a baby.
Yeah.
She wants him to, figure his stuff out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he's just trying to make beats. That's all Dre wants to do.
and it's perfectly like understandable, and it flows well. It flowed well in the movie. Like they set all these up. Like everyone is kind of like in a precarious position in life. They all kind of have the same idea and have faith in that idea, and also like the straight like arrogance that like really made them who they are. So they're like, fuck it, we're gonna get in the studio. It's gonna be a shitty ass studio, and we're gonna make like a record. And they do it, and they print it themselves, and like that entire sequence, which was like the minute 1 to like minute whatever it was, I want to say 30 or whatever, was awesome. Like everything fell in. We kind of get to see that Dre has like a really good feel for turntable. Like he's
For
like
how music works.
yeah, he's
how
a talented,
feels.
genuinely a talented musician who's like a student of the art. Okay, and like he understands it probably better than a lot of people. But he also understands, like, he seems to, like, that's what they were trying to point out, is that he seems to like have like an understanding of people. Like he is able to get Eazy-E into that booth and record. I don't know if that's how it actually played out in real life.
It doesn't matter. It only matters how it played out.
Yeah, but in the movie, it made sense. Like that whole sequence, regardless of how accurate it was, it made sense as a movie.
And it's very cute. There are very few character points that this movie manages to play on, especially without bringing in a whole bunch of clunky dialogue into it.
Mm-hmm.
Eazy always wore sunglasses.
Yeah.
He performed with sunglasses on, and they managed to set that up in a very real and believable way.
Yeah.
With him trying to do it, where they don't explain, they don't, say, oh, I guess I'll put these sunglasses on so that I don't feel nervous anymore. Yeah. They show him being nervous. He puts the sunglasses on.
Yeah.
That's like the cleanest characterization that this movie manages to do.
What happened to that?
I don't know.
What happened to that for the rest of the movie?
What
happened to that for the other 2 hours?
The only bit that they managed to do cleanly.
That's what I mean. It was it's so weird.
The rest of this movie is so ham-fisted and over the top.
It's like they had like the
okay. So Dre, at the end of the movie, Dre says to Suge Knight, which I guess this is the time, because they all finally broke up or whatever and all went on their own. Yeah. This is finally the point where we get to end the movie for some reason. I don't know. But at that point, Dre says to Suge Knight, he says something like, "Oh God, what cliched line did he use?" He says something like, "I don't know.
Start my own brand or whatever."
He said, "I'm gonna start my own brand."
Don't have to answer to anybody anymore or some shit like that. Like,
oh my God, it was like a series of.
Yeah, it was like
I don't have to answer to anybody. I'll live with. He said something like, "I'll live with a clean conscience."
Yeah, or something like that. Or like money can't buy.
Money can't buy happiness. He said something like corny like that, and I'm like, what is this? Is this like the first draft? Did they shoot this movie? Literally, like the dude wrote it in his composition notebook, and then they went, "Okay, go and shoot it."
One thing, it was the whole scene where they were visiting. Eazy-E gets AIDS, right, and is on his deathbed. Mm-hmm. The two dudes who we know nothing about. Again, because I'm
the one guy caught was funny.
MC, the guy Ren, right?
The guy
and the other guy.
Yeah, the little dude who looked just like Ron from the Different World. I don't know who he was.
Okay.
But
yeah, so they came in and said like their goodbyes to him very briefly, without showing too much emotion, because that's gay shit, quote unquote. I guess. I don't know.
My goodness.
I didn't know why that scene was so detached.
Because this movie is so... Okay, I understand, obviously. There's a bit of a machismo thing in the black community. There's a bit There's more than
A
a bit
bit.
of homophobia
A bit.
in the black community.
Just a little
So
bit.
this movie, obviously, because it was set in 84 to 90 whatever, and because we're not in a, in a better future, this movie is so misogynist
Yeah.
and so like homophobic on the level of homophobia where you're afraid of gay people because it represents your fear of being feminine yourself. Really, homophobia being a
But
fear of being a woman, hating women. Like this movie hates women so hardcore.
yeah, it kind of treats a lot of like gags. There's like a bunch of gags where the butt of the joke is that she's a woman.
Yeah,
Like
the
when
butt of the joke is she's a woman.
They push that girl out of the room or whatever. I feel like they were trying to make that a joke.
No, it was a joke.
It was clearly a
It was a
callback
joke.
to like this is. I guess we're supposed to assume that this is how he got that joke on Friday.
Yes, this is. He got that joke on Friday because this wonderful woman Felicia was nice enough to suck Eazy-E's dick.
Yeah.
And so because some dude who I guess is her boyfriend, we don't know. It could just be some asshole. Comes up with a gun to the friggin' hotel suite while she's sucking Eazy-E's, penis. While she has her mouth wrapped around his dick. But because she's such an asshole for having this dude come after her with a gun, she has to be kicked out of the hotel room, half naked or whatever. So bye, Felicia.
Yeah.
And that's where the great Bye Felicia was born. From this poor woman who was nice enough to give a blowjob being kicked out of, a hotel room.
I don't believe that actually happened. I'm just gonna say, I don't know.
What are you talking about? Everything else in this movie was boring enough to actually happen.
So this dude. Okay, so you're telling me that this dude had that line by Felicia that he remembered from somewhere.
He probably told that story multiple times. He probably told the story of him putting a hand in some woman's face and throwing her out the door.
You're telling me he wrote an entire character who's like this
I honestly don't know.
Like
and I honestly
dusty,
don't care.
dirty bitch who he named Felicia just so he could set up that joke in that movie?
Honestly,
I feel like it was like a much more important...
It's a callback. It's not...
Okay,
it's not
another thing...
didn't actually happen.
Okay, another thing is that... I mentioned this while we were fucking watching the movie because that's how boring it was that I decided to say something. That Ice Cube does not have sex with any person in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Or do any drugs, or handle any guns. He's always... Anytime any of that shit happens, he's in the corner... quote unquote chilling.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. Like did
this movie,
did his wife in real life not let him?
Probably not. I mean, it is his son playing him. That would be kind of weird. He'd be like, "Oh, Dad, did you really mess with all these women?" I don't know.
What? No, come on. There has to be like some level of. I mean, otherwise it just smacks of like just blatant dishonesty. Like
it is dishonest.
You're willing me to. You're telling me that. Well, not only dishonest like from him, but you're telling me that like his son also doesn't have a realistic view of his dad. Like I don't know. It was just
not at all. Who actually views their parents realistically?
I don't know, man.
Very few people.
If you're an actor, I feel like you would maybe.
But
at
that's
least
the
understand.
thing. How many of the people in this movie were actually actors? Because I'm gonna tell you what.
Most of them were bad.
As good as some of them were, and I did like the dude who does look like Ron from Different World. I will say again.
I liked him. Pretty funny.
He was pretty funny. Paul Giamatti, as soon as he came on the screen, and I mean, this is why you need actors. This is why actors are so good.
The guy that played Eazy-E, I thought he was convincing.
He was pretty good.
He was good.
He was good.
Ice Cube Jr. was decent until
it's just that
the point where it required him to actually have like other emotions outside of just like flippant like anger.
Yeah.
Any other emotion he just could not portray, and so yeah, it kind of sucked.
Also, too, I did like the guy who played Dr. Dre. It was just a little awkward sometimes because it's like, what was he supposed to be feeling or doing at any one point? His girlfriend or his baby mama, let's just say that, because he is sleeping with tons of women in the street apparently, runs off with his daughter, and he seems kind of broken up about it. Do we ever hear about it again?
Never hear about it.
No. Does he still have a daughter even? Who knows? We don't know. The movie says that it happens and then moves on.
I mean, yeah, but it makes sense because, yeah, Dre is probably like, they went off and I didn't give a shit during that whole time. I don't even know. Maybe he gives a shit now. I mean, he must have because they wrote him in. But, yeah, he was like, well, but they weren't.
Be careful.
Oh, what?
The WGA will be after you. He did not write this movie.
WGA.
Writers Guild of America.
No, well, you know what I mean. Like, there must have been some kind of director from the top because that's the only way because this movie is all over his dick, and I don't know who else would suck his dick more than he would. Like, I'm
It is
just
true.
saying.
They do end it with Dr. Dre. They end the movie with Dr. Dre forming Aftermath,
Yeah,
and then that's the end of the movie.
yeah, it's it. Yeah, it was Aftermath, and that's it. Okay, well, so I guess do you have anything else to add to it?
No, not really. I feel like I'm going in circles now because
All
of
right.
how bad this
Yeah,
movie
we could
was,
just keep
and how
beating
much I
this.
wish that I could just see a rap version of Dreamgirls
Somebody, yeah, next time there's a biopic about
or
somebody, have it
a rap
not.
version of What's Love Got to Do with It.
Yeah, just have not the people making it about themselves would be a good start to making a good one.
Ooh.
Okay, so recommend, not recommend.
No, I don't recommend
Don't
it.
recommend?
Unfortunately, not. I really wanted to, but no. I recommend watching their ad campaign and then dreaming of a better movie.
I can't really recommend it. I also like to do a thing where I want to identify whether it's a genre movie or not.
This is definitely a
this is
genre movie.
You think this is a genre movie?
It's a biopic.
It is a biopic. All right.
In the genre of
You're right.
biopics, this is a by numbers,
This is
complete paint by numbers biopic.
yeah. I think even if you're a fan of hip hop, which I think that I am,
This is a terrible movie.
I
about
think
hip-hop.
I think it's terrible. I think it does a disservice to who these people were
and to the influence that they
and
had.
to the influence that they had, and to just everything. It's just like it wants to pretend that it is, and it tries really hard, and it just I feel like it smacks of its own like just arrogance about who they thought, like what they thought they were, which is apparently a bunch of really dope dudes making sweet music, I guess. And I mean, they definitely were, but this movie just kind of. All right, cool. Let's take it easy, the internet.
Bye, guys.
Bye.